Guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an article titled Why More and More Women Are Choosing to Be Feminine, Not Feminist. Women are waking up to the reality of what third wave feminism produces in their lives and are turning away from the toxic ideology in droves. And guys, what I like about this article, aside from the fact that it's a complete article trashing modern feminism, but it's also written by a woman. And she makes it abundantly clear that what we have in this day and age is a bunch of bullshit and it's not doing society any good, and all this nonsense that so many people have been sold on, particularly obviously women, is nonsense, okay? And obviously she's doing this for a lot of self-interest, sure, but nevertheless it's good to have a woman calling this for what it is, okay? And I gotta say, guys, that probably about between 5 to 6% of my subscribers are women. And there isn't a week that goes by where I don't get at least 1 or 2 emails from my female viewers telling me that they really like my channel, they like what I'm doing here, because they know that feminism is bullshit, and they see the negative effect it's having on society and on all different levels. You know, some will say that they have sons and they don't want their sons to end up with women that are like this, or the other women I write about and talk about in different stories. Or they say they have sons, but they don't want their sons to grow up to be these weaklings, these weak men that, thanks to this group, is trying to mold in society, you know, trying to make men more feminine and making women more masculine. They don't want to see that happen either, because they know it's going to be a bad, big mistake, and things like that, you know, and it's nice to hear. And so hopefully more and more as time goes on, we're going to see more articles like this come about, and actually women actually speaking publicly, not just behind a computer, about this, but one step at a time here. So this article is pretty long, so I'm going to get right into it right now. So it starts off, for too long, women have felt the need to deny their true nature and their femininity in favor of the feminist mindset. I gotta speak in code, guys, at this point. And the results are in. It's making us sick and miserable. Modern feminism is rooted in Marxist critical theory. Third wave feminism is an ideology rooted in Marxist critical theory, and therein lies its inability to produce positive results in those practicing it. Marxism, in simple terms, focuses primarily on seeing the world and all its issues through the lens of economic class. The dichotomy, I can't pronounce this word, of oppressor and oppressed is used to explain all woes that may befall an individual. The idea that the individual's freedom in society is constrained by an economic oppressor via capitalism was used to explain women's issues. Men and male-controlled society were determined to be the cause of all women's troubles, and thus were birthed the brand of Marxist feminism we're enduring today. Men suddenly were no longer our protectors and providers, our sons and our husbands, but our oppressors. Does this sound familiar, guys? Does this sound like pretty much the mindset of a big block of these people today? Dead on. According to these radical feminists, the oppression is enforced and maintained throughout history by the patriarchy, an elusive and omnipresent impediment to women's freedom and advancement. Out of this ideology, a gender war emerged that's still ongoing and has made not only men and women feel at odds with each other, but has made women feel at odds with themselves. This entire worldview is false and theoretical. Let's just get that out of the way right now. Women and men are not equal in their roles or their ability for natural biological reasons, which is not only good, but far more practical than any modern feminist would like to admit. There are some things women excel at, and others that best remain in a man's domain. We have complementary attributes, not interchangeable attributes. Dead on, guys. I mean, there are things that women are really great at that men suck at, and there are things that men are great at and that women are terrible at, okay? We have our roles we're best at, so just leave it as is. But these types don't want to hear it that way. The widespread belief that women are not only meant to do all the things men do, but they would be much happier and fulfilled if they did them alongside men has ironically resulted in modern women being more unhappy than any other period in recorded history. The more women have turned away from their nature and the roles best suited to them, the more they have become clinically depressed and without direction. I think in today's world, more and more women are, like she just described, is clinically depressed, in therapy, all that, on different medications than any period in history. It's unbelievable if you start researching the numbers here. It's not an accident, guys. It's also not an accident that the divorce rate is higher, the highest in history, at least here in the West, in the United States, and people are getting married less and less. Okay, and I make it abundantly clear my opinion on marriage in today's world, and there's a reason for that, because of shit like this and the impact it's had on our laws and everything else. I tell you, don't fucking do it. You're out of your mind in today's world. Are there exceptions? Yes, but generally speaking, if you're a young guy in your 20s or 30s now, I mean, because most guys get married for the first time in their 20s or early 30s, it is Russian roulette. I'm telling you right now, the odds are, it's not going to go well for you. Women have been told that work is liberation, and that total financial independence from their husbands is necessary for security. This obsession with money as freedom and status as identity permeates all aspects of modern life, and not surprisingly, women feel lost and angry. We have been misled away from our natural inclinations for traditional female roles and femininity itself, because of a loud minority has hijacked the conversation. Yes, it is certainly a loud minority that's literally hijacked the situation. Women are either working 40 hours a week while managing homes and children, attempting to balance it all, or they're drifting in reckless abandon, hopping from one casual sexual encounter to the next, and assuaging their maternal instincts by amassing extensive tropical plant collections and small animals. Referring to, drugs and having lots of pets, cats and dogs and all that. With regards to the community, third wave feminism is not about being free. It's about mimicking men. This alone requires us to deny our femininity. Simone de Beauvoir, I don't know, someone can correct me in how you pronounce this woman's last name, I have no idea. One of the grandmothers of feminist philosophy and critical thought, worked hard to undermine the beauty, grace, and virtuousness of women's work. Instead of giving women a way to think of their roles as dignified, worthy, enjoyable, and necessary, she made every attempt possibly to degrade it. In other words, she's basically anything being feminine is bad. That's the idea that this woman and many, many more like her have made it out to be. Hence, we live in a world now that more and more women are becoming more masculine and more men are becoming feminine. How's that worked out? She mocked motherhood, and she's quoted as saying that the child is the supreme aim of the woman is a statement having precisely the value of an advertising slogan. She mocked homemaking, and she says, few tasks are more like the torture of Sisyphus than housework with its endless repetition. She insulted femininity. To be feminine is to show oneself as weak, futile, passive, and docile. And she even mocked marriage. To catch a husband is an art, to hold him is a job. When proponents tell you that radical feminism is just about equality and it's about women being free to live as they choose, remember these foundational quotes made by feminist thought leaders like de Beauvoir. Underneath the bows and ribbons championing girl power is an absolute and unifying hatred for all things traditionally feminine. How many of you guys have encountered women that are like this, that are, these die-hard feminists, as I call them? Do they have anything that's remotely feminine about them aside from obviously how they are biologically? No way. And I'm not going to say what I'm thinking here because YouTube won't do the video, but just trust me on that. All this has produced in women an intense resistance to wanting to build families, to date for marriage, to see motherhood as something that's empowering or fulfilling. Femininity is not seen as creative, nurturing, wise, and gentle as it should be, but simply being a doormat. Guys, in today's world, if a woman was a senior in high school, a young girl, and people ask you, what do you want to do? And she said, I want to be a mom. I want to marry a great guy, and I want to be a mom and all that. She would be just so looked down upon and chastised for that. What do you mean you want to be a mom? And there are women out there that want to have the traditional roles. They really, really do, but they're completely chastised for that and looked down upon. And it's really unfortunate. Maybe these things aren't for all women, but the idea that the majority of women will be made unhappy by embracing their feminine spirit and through marriage and family is possibly the most harmful product of feminist pop culture. Women who naturally feel called to feminine roles and behavior often feel alienated by modern feminism and its proponents. They have to actively deny their true selves in order to adopt the label. And this is one of the main reasons we see women turning away from feminism in favor of femininity. What I just said before. The attack on family. Furthermore, radical feminists have intentionally targeted the nuclear family. And there's some different quotes here I'm going to read. The first one says, "To complete destruction of traditional marriage and the nuclear family is the revolutionary or utopian goal of feminism, Kate Millett." Another quote, "The nuclear family must be destroyed. Whatever its ultimate meaning, the breakup of families now is an objectively revolutionary process, Linda Gordon." Unfortunately, there seems to be some success in this area, as there are fewer people getting married and having children now than ever, just like I said in the beginning of the video. Radical feminists will tell you we need to destroy the family to set both men and women free of its oppressive effect on their lives. But in reality, studies show that married people report higher life satisfaction than single people. Well, I beg to differ with that study. And I want to know, well, first of all, I want to know when that study was done. Was that study done 50 years ago? Because there's no way it's going to report that today. Because unfortunately, how things are right now, that most people that are married are absolutely miserable. Okay? From just, I'll backtrack here. More like somewhere between just bored. You know, you got the married couple that are, the love's gone, and they're staying in it for the kids or something like that. And they're just kind of living together as roommates, you know. And I wouldn't say miserable, but just not happy. On the other hand, to the more extreme, where you have couples that are together, again, for the kids, or maybe because of the health benefits of the other, who knows, and can't stand each other and are miserable. And then the rest of the people just get out and start over. But the people that get out the first time end up getting in the same situation through a second or third marriage. But maybe some people later on in life will look back and say, hey, you know, I had a family and I had good kids, so even though I wasn't happy with my husband or wife, I had some satisfaction by having kids. Who knows? I would like to know more about that study. Anyhow, also it's important to note the effect that this has in the younger generation. Children born into single-parent households do worse in school and are more likely to grow up in poverty, have a criminal record, and problems with drug addictions, report having a higher degree of anxiety and depression, especially among girls, and even have a lower literacy rate. Well, if nobody is raised, if you have so many single-parent households, which usually are moms, and the kids aren't raised to see what it's like to to see what a marriage is like, and have actually two people actually happy together and loving, how are they going to go out and do it themselves? Because they have, you know, no matter what, your parents are your biggest role models growing up. So if you're in a single-parent household, how the hell are you supposed to know what's to be like, you know, for both a boy and a girl, right? Not only are the women who are raising children alone living harder existences, but the children they raise have a higher degree of struggle than their peers growing up in traditional families. So what exactly is there to be gained by destroying the family structure? Families are the first building block of true happiness, independence from the state, and intergenerational wealth. Self-sufficiency is easier to achieve when you're part of a family unit because ideally you have the consistent support of family members to rely on when in need. Oppressive governments don't want citizens to have this kind of personal power. Strong multi-generational family units are far harder to control than vulnerable individuals. In my opinion, control is what is truly to be gained by pitting man against women and devaluing family life. Feminists are useful idiots and proxy warriors of a greater battle to destabilize society, reduce personal liberty, and make tyrannical rule easier. That's an interesting argument that is being made here, you know. Yes, I mean, the old divide and conquer. When people are unhappy and divided, it's much easier to run them over. When women accept their femininity, we see them embracing their natural desire for family and children. The realization of the cruel fate that awaits feminists who choose to live out their final years alone, leaving no legacy behind aside from what achievements appear on their resume, is something that's very relevant in women's decision to turn away from that ideology. Next up, the war on beauty. Women innately love beauty rituals and will always care about being perceived as being beautiful. Some ancient beauty practices are still used today in some cultures, their origin being women's nature and not the patriarchy as some would have you believe. Yeah, well, feminine women really care about being beautiful, but the masculine ones, they don't care so much. And there are a lot of masculine ones out there, but it's interesting because you can even have girls that are definitely more in touch with their masculine side, but they still want attention. That is one common denominator. That can unite all women. They all still thrive on attention and validation. The feminist concept of the male gaze originated in film theory and is a component of what has derailed women's natural desire for beautification. Feminist theorists make the claim that women only care about looking feminine because men expect them to. You hear that all the time. They believe that the objectification and representation of women's bodies in cinema and media reduce women to mere symbolic images of the male ideal. They imagine women being hollow husks where they participate in beauty rituals or take seriously beauty standards that are shown in mainstream media. The truth is far simpler. Women enjoy being beautiful, and there are objective standards for beauty that we all instinctively agree on. Beauty is tied up with genetic health and fertility, topics feminists recoil at. Feminine girls, my sister, growing up, very, very feminine, very girly girl. And she was always with her hair, her clothes, her makeup, her nails, all that, always very, very girly growing up. My mom raised her to be that way. My mom was feminine. My dad was very masculine. My dad, I've mentioned before in the videos, he was in the military. He retired as a lieutenant commander in the Navy, but he was a Marine first, and he was a doctor. He was a strong guy, and my sister got to see what type of guy. She was raised having a father like that, and my mom would always take her out to the mall, and they go shopping, do girl stuff together. My dad and I would poke jokes here and there, but that's what my sister was. But that's becoming more and more rare these days. She enjoyed it. She enjoyed doing those things. And she attracted guys that were obviously more masculine guys because she was a very feminine girl. Goes on. Certainly our sense of worth and self-esteem shouldn't be entirely tied up with our appearance, but it's impossible to deny that being beautiful comes with its advantages. The high standards of female beauty we see in cinema are more representative of the artistic and aspirational nature of film itself than the oppressive SEX-UAL politics of men's gaze. Directors desire for things to look perfect on screen. They construct moving images to be aesthetically pleasing in the same way a painter does with his brush. The result of buying into the myth is feminist women who make themselves intentionally ugly so as to deflect men's gaze and to neutralize any feelings of competition amongst themselves and other feminists. They take the normal standards of the day and do the opposite, simply to undermine the power structure within beauty culture, by revolting against the hierarchies of female dominance established by beauty standards. They attempt to shame all women into being equally ugly. Damn, I like that part. She's really hammering these girls, these feminist girls. But it's dead on. I mean, you see a lot of these women that, without a shadow of a doubt, what they stand for. It's like they deliberately make themselves look like crap. Just the other day, I was pulling up to CVS, and out comes this girl that I used to know. I used to train in martial arts with, and when she first started there, she was a pretty blonde. I would say she was about an 8 in the looks department, and she obviously, my buddy started dating her, and then he found out her true colors, and as time went on, she started doing more things to kind of butch herself up, so to speak. And I haven't seen her in years. I pull up to CVS, and out she comes. She has this shaved head type of thing going here on her sides, and this short hair hanging over there, kind of like a dyed gray. And she's put on like 15 pounds and it looks like crap. And I know what she looked like 5-6 years ago when she looked pretty hot, but she's really been gulping down the pink Kool-Aid, and now she's intentionally making herself look like crap because of this whole bullshit ideology. And she is now definitely at least 30 years old, maybe 31, so she's going to be in trouble later on in time when she probably wakes up and realizes this is all a bunch of bullshit. And no guy's going to want her. The result of buying into this myth is feminist women who make themselves, I read that part, my bad, recovering from feminism. The stories of what happens to women when they fight their nature of being feminine speaks for themselves. Many women feel they have been led astray by feminism and have made their natural inclinations to be feminine associated with shame. This has made it increasingly difficult to relate to the masculine men they're attracted to. It has made them physically and mentally sick. The recovery stories are astounding. Popular social media influencer Bernadine Bluntly has documented many women's stories of recovery after rejecting feminism. Women unanimously report suffering from depression, eating disorders, drug addictions, and abusing and exploiting themselves while under the influence of feminism. Once they wake up to the damage it has done to them, their lives change. They often find husbands, have children, become happy and healthy, and even find God. This is what is on the other side of feminism. What awaits you is domestic harmony, purpose, meaning, and legacy in the true sense of the word. What happens when women turn away from feminism is evidence in itself of the ideology's toxic and hate-fueled falseness. When women wake up to their reality and accept their nature, they become successful, happy, and fulfilled in ways they could only have dreamed of before. Think about it. Have you ever in your life had the misfortune to have a conversation, encounter, or know a woman that is a feminist? Do they ever seem happy to you? No. They're always pissed off about something. There's always some injustice that they got to speak their minds about and complain about. It's never ending. Okay? Some people may say, well, SSM, your whole channel is about you talking about different things you're not happy about with and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's the thing. That's the purpose of this channel, to help guys on so many levels and bring awareness to so many issues. But I'm not talking about this outside this channel. I mean, I may have a conversation with my buddies about something like this, but I got plenty of other things to talk about, things that I enjoy in life. This is just the purpose of this channel, to help guys out on multiple levels. Closing thoughts. If we're acting masculine the way feminism prescribes, we damage our ability to relate to the men we're attracted to in a complementary and feminine way. We create conflict where there need not be any. We lose touch with the things that we have potential to make us truly happy. We begin to believe that our biology as women is a force against us, as opposed to the life-giving force that it is. Feminism has done great damage to an entire generation of women, but hope is not lost. Women are waking up to the falseness of this ideology. You can't fight against nature. While nature isn't always fair, it's pragmatic. Women have the roles they do for good reason, and they come with a set of both advantages and disadvantages. Camilla Paglia is correct when she says feminism was always wrong to pretend that women could have it all. It is not male society, but Mother Nature who lays the heaviest burden on women. That burden can be carried with grace if we choose not to point our fingers like children and blame others for our particular struggles. If we accept our roles as mothers, wives, creatives, educators, and harborers of beauty with gratitude, these things don't cause any major strife and can actually be experienced as the main sources of our freedom and happiness. Well, there you go. That was a very good article. And like I said before, it's a start. You know, you get, like I said before, I get emails 1 or 2 a week from women that follow me, and they really like what I do. And of course, I see the comments from women that follow me here as well on the channel. And more are waking up to realize this is all bullshit and things like that. And obviously, men are getting a raw deal. But this is a start. Until you have more women actually coming out in person and actually saying, when people can see who they are, that calling all this for what it is, you know, it's not going to get too far. But I'm going to be, hopeful here that this is the beginning. More and more articles like this will then lead to more women actually standing up and saying some things in our defense. Because guess what? We're not the enemy. As much as this particular group wants to make us to the supervillains for all that is wrong in the world, is completely untrue. And all the damage it has done out there, because it's a mess out there right now. So, anyway, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And any of my female followers, please comment down below. let me know your thoughts on feminism and so forth, okay? And guys, be nice to the women that make comment about these things, because believe me, those types are trying to help the situation, okay? I don't think we have many infiltrators here on this channel. The infiltrators, usually the ones that give me the thumbs down and the negative comments. No matter what, I'm always going to have them. So, but anyhow, guys, yeah, be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.